Good morning, everyone. I'm going to give everyone a minute or two just to see who else is joining. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the East Bay Fund for Artists webinar. My name is Melody Roshan, and I am a program manager here at EBCF, supporting our arts and culture for racial justice work, including our East Bay Fund for Artists grant making. This webinar should last about 30 minutes and will provide an overview of what to expect. A few housekeeping items. If you have any questions as we move through the webinar, there is a Q&A feature, and I encourage everyone to put questions in there as we move through it. And this PowerPoint and also recorded webinar will be available on our EBFA website in the next coming days. A bit about our origin story of how this fund was established. It was established in 2003. EBFA has partnered with more than 9,500 community donors and more than 200 organizations to commission new works by over 300 local artists. EBFA has leveraged almost 3.1 million in new financial support for the arts in the East Bay. The overall goals for this fund is to support new creation by local artists and for East Bay organizations, specifically work with a lens towards social justice, support for composers, playwrights, choreographers, visual, media, traditional and interdisciplinary artists in the Bay Area, to support diversity of artistic practices and organizations, and to provide opportunities for communities of color to experience art that represents their culture and history. Oh, someone said they can't see the slide. Let me. Yes, sorry. 1 second, y'all. My slide should be up for you. Let me see what's. Resume. Can you tell me if you see? Okay, you can't see it. 1 second, share. Okay, can you tell me if you see it now? Yay, thank you. All right, perfect. So the good news is it's just the first slide, so you didn't miss anything. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and go to the first slide. So today we're going to provide an overview of the EBFA fund guidelines. We're going to take a look at eligibility, process for applying, timeline, and again, there will be a Q&A, time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. Beginning with eligibility, one of the first questions that people ask is, do you have to be an organization to apply? No, but the EBFA Fund for Artists welcomes application from both individual artists living in the East Bay or organizations in the East Bay. And the East Bay is Alameda and Contra Costa counties. In order to be eligible as an artist, do you have to have a fiscal sponsor? Yes. A fiscal sponsor is required to receive funds on your behalf. Your fiscal sponsor does not have to be in the East Bay or in the Greater Bay Area. They can be based in California regions, the West Coast, the East Coast, like New York and other states. If applying as an organization, your organization must be based in the East Bay, specifically in either Alameda or Contra Costa counties. And if your organization is acting as a fiscal sponsor, the organization can sponsor more than one application, but it must be for distinct projects. The other question that we get is this opportunity open to international artists? No, you must be located in the East Bay. So what type of artistic disciplines are eligible? Dance, film, filmmakers we will fund them. However, you will have to have a budget that's under $50,000 or need to show other significant project support. Our intention is that the works commissioned by EBFA should premiere within 1 year of the notification of the grant. Thus, we prefer to support small budget projects such as works in progress or short films, or projects that are in the post-production phase. We also support literary arts, book projects, music, theater, visual arts, etc. Duration for eligibility. Can you apply to multiple rounds? So if you received an award in 2023 round, you are ineligible to receive an award this round. You can only be a lead artist on one project. Organizations can be a fiscal sponsor and also an applicant. And lastly, we only fund new work. So now let's discuss the guidelines and application in detail. The guidelines and the application are both online. So you'll see the first link. It'll take you to the website, which provides a summary of the grant opportunity itself. Here you'll find guidelines for both individual artists and organizations. There's also frequently asked questions for each type of applicant, and there's a lot of great information to support you in applying. So we really encourage you to review this information in detail. The second link is going to take you directly to the application using a platform called SurveyMonkey Apply. Here you can see the eligibility requirements, different characteristics of the EBFA fund, and instructions on how to troubleshoot, how to use the platform and to troubleshoot. So we encourage you to spend time exploring the application platform, especially the troubleshooting section. As we do not provide direct technical assistance, this must be received from SurveyMonkey Apply. The number one question that people have is, should I apply as an individual artist or should I apply as an organization? And what are the differences? So here are a few questions to help make that decision. Most importantly, who's actually leading the work? Who is commissioning the project? Whose work and base will be expanded through the process? And who will lead the work, facilitating and supporting the project and the process for developing the work? Next is the application checklist. These two look similar for artists and organizations, but the main difference between the two is that individual artists need to have a letter of commitment from a venue. They need a fiscal sponsor agreement, organization budget from the fiscal sponsor, project budget from the artists. In terms of similarities, you're both going to have the essential application questions and about demographics as well. Narrative questions, project budget, project timeline, artist statement, and work samples. Panel. So what will they be looking for? They want to be able to see the creation of new work and how it's supporting individual artists. In the narrative description, panelists are looking for clear visions with strong artist's practice. And they want to see in the budget that EBFA funds 100% have to go to the lead artists. and that the EBFA funds will support up to 75% of the total project cost. Any funds raised outside of EBFA can be used for other aspects of the production, like performers, production costs, materials, supplies, etc. They're also seeing, can the lead artist hold multiple roles, like composer, director, artist, etc. They want to see, what audiences do you plan to engage? What audience does this piece speak to? Who are they? What are their characteristics? Are there strong themes of social justice in the work? Broadly defined, does it speak to a current social justice issue or speak to issues happening in impacted communities? What is the work saying about social justice related theme or history? Looking to support artists and organizations that are underrepresented in the arts ecosystem, keeping the mission with the fund to support art organizations and artists part of the dynamic ecosystem, but have not received the amount of support they need to continue to create new work. When it comes to the artist's statement, it's very critical to answer the following questions. How does this particular work fit in with your practice? What inspired you to do or create this new work? And again, which audiences do you plan to engage? Moving on to budget, we want you to be realistic, include all the costs, and let us know what this work requires. Budgets can look different. There are different approaches. However, these are just an example of the elements we need to see. Both as organizations and individuals, we need to see a budget. And the budget is where you identify where you get the funds from to support the project. A question that we get is, must all other funding be secured to be funded through the EBFA? No, however, 100% of EBFA funds must go to the lead artists. So how will the panel score applications? Clear articulation of the project and how it aligns with the artist's artistic practice and creative development, demonstrated ability to complete the project, your plan to reach and engage your audience, the strength of social justice themes and issues. Panelists will also look at artists' history, what has been the track record for organizations and artists around this project. While it is about creating new work done, they will look at the work that the artist has done before. Is it a break from that? How will funds help them to do that? Why and how will the fund support this new directive? For organizations that are applying, panelists will also consider the alignment between the organization and the artist. Why is the organization choosing this artist and this work to be commissioned? Is there a clear vision behind the new commission? Does this new work fit with the organization's history, or is it a departure or a new direction? Is this a meaningful addition or commission in terms of the organization development and type of work that the organization does in collaboration and commissions? Another thing is that the organization's ability to manage and get the project and offer the artist support they need and the feasibility to produce the work. Moving on to work samples, we ask for 1 to 2 per lead artists. This can be either a video, audio. If it is, we ask for no more than 3 minutes long. If you are a playwright, you can upload a script no more than 10 pages, so no need to submit an entire script, just a sample. Photos. You upload all of this in SurveyMonkey Apply, and it's very user-friendly once you log in. So for the timeline, the deadline to apply is Monday, September 9th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Pacific time. The panel will review the applications in October. The target date to notify applicants of decision is early November, and to process the grant awards is mid-November. The East Bay premiere must be within 1 year of receiving your grant. So here's a review of fiscal sponsors. Again, this is required for all individual artists and organizations that do not have a 501c3. Again, it does not need to be located in the East Bay. Here are some examples of fiscal sponsors with a long track record of supporting artists in the East Bay. Again, this PowerPoint and webinar will be available on the website, so you will have access to this in the next coming days. So now I'm going to check out the questions in the chat, and my colleague Deborah Giles and I will go ahead and answer them together. So the first question is, should the lead artist fee include any materials the lead artist needs to purchase? So 100% of the grant is going to the lead artist, and it's to their discretion on how they want to use that money, but it's going to go 100% to them.
But ideally, any purchases you have to make for the production should come out the cost of the production and shouldn't come from your salary. We want the funds to be used to pay you for your time and your work, not to be used to purchase materials regarding the play or event that you're taking part in.
Thank you so much. Got it. Thank you. Okay. And the next question is, please talk more about fiscal sponsor as an individual artist. How do I find a fiscal sponsor? So I just sent a list of a few in the PowerPoint. So that's a great place to start because they have a track record of working with artists. Again, this PowerPoint is going to be available on the website.
And also on the website, there's a link to these fiscal sponsors as well.
Oh, yes, we just added that. So if you go to the FAQs on our website, and there's a PDF of this available too. We just added that. So that's a great resource as well. You mentioned that the panel wants to know if the project is in line with the organization's history or is a departure. Which of those is the one you are looking for? We would tell the story differently to highlight the one you value. I think that's just up to the panelists themselves. These are folks from the community. I personally would not know what exactly they're looking for. They just want to make sure that it's aligned with the elements that they're seeing with the social justice themes. And also, is it feasible? Is this a project that's uplifting the artists and in a meaningful and thoughtful way? But I wouldn't know because I'm not sure what the panelists exactly are looking for. Deborah, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I do. So one of the things we're looking for is not business as usual for the organization. In other words, they've done something similar to last year, the year before is something that they do all the time. So this is something new. This is something outside of what they normally do as an organization when they bring in this artist. When we say new work, we're very clear on new work. And one of the things that the panelists look at is they're familiar with some of these organizations, and they know whether or not this is business as usual or this is a departure. This is something new that they're, bringing in this artist for, and it is specifically new work. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you all for these questions too, and letting us know in the chat that it's helpful. The next question that we have is, your website says most of your grants are by invitation only, but this one is due on September 9th. Seems to be open. True? Correct. So this is an open grant, thankfully. So September 9th, open to anyone that is an individual artist, as long as you are in the East Bay and you have all the eligibilities that we are asking for, and you have a fiscal sponsor if you are an individual artist or you are an organization 501c3 in the East Bay. And again, you just have to meet the eligibility requirements.
Yeah, not all of our open grants are invitation only. I think we do Clorox, belonging, and I think a couple of the BLO grants are invitation only, but East Bay Fund for Artists is not invitation only. If you're eligible to apply, you can apply.
Yes. Does anybody else have any more questions? Because I don't see any more questions in the chat. or in the Q&A. It says, since grant amounts range from 5 to 25K, can our budget be anything within that? Do you have any restrictions on how much an individual can apply for? So EBFA will only cover up to 75% of your project. So just keep that in mind. And again, this grant 100% is going to be going to the individual artist. So we want you to be as thorough and honest as you can about your budget of what this project is actually going to take and how feasible it can be. And what other grants you're also receiving or any support you're receiving outside of this. But we will only be able to cover up to 75%. Deborah, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I'm trying to see how to put this. So if the project budget is, say, $10,000, and you're asking for $8,000 for a project and $5,000 for additional $5,000 to cover the artist, that wouldn't go because you're beyond the limit. 7,500 would be the limit for the project budget that we would cover as a part of this grant. And when I say cover, I don't mean that the 7,500 that you can ask for the project, but what I'm saying, that's the max you can ask that you could present as part of your budget when asking for support for the artist.
Thank you so much,
I hope
Deborah.
that wasn't confusing.
Let us know in the chat if you need additional insight. But otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next two questions. Someone asked, if this grant is originally for communities of color, are POC folks eligible? This fund is only for BIPOC artists. So just FYI, that is one of the questions in the eligibility quiz. This is a fund for BIPOC artists in the East Bay. Next question is, our organization pays community members / freelancers to write about and cover local arts and culture. We'd need to have a specific artists in the grant, correct? Since these would be new works, would new stories be considered new? Deborah, could you chime in on that one?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like this would be a fit for East Bay Fund for Artists, because you're talking about an ongoing coverage of arts and culture, which is not a project that is slated to take place in 1 year's time. That's open to the community or our audiences. This sounds like something that's ongoing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Deborah. The next question is, how do you define for East Bay artists? Does my organization need to have an East Bay address? If you are an individual artist, you will need a fiscal sponsor, and the fiscal sponsor can be from anywhere. That's totally fine, as long as you are an East Bay, meaning Alameda or Contra Costa County artist. If you are an organization who is applying and you are a 501c3, accredited 501c3, you need to be in the East Bay, meaning Alameda or Contra Costa County. So it needs to be in those locations.
Yes, as an individual artist, you need to reside in the East Bay in order to apply for a grant.
So yes, the address needs to be either in either of those counties. Any more questions? Okay, so you are saying in your example, if a new project budget is a total of $8,000, an organization can apply for 75% and can request 6,000, then 100% of it would need to go to a POC artist of the East Bay, correct? Let me see. Yes, so 100% of it would need to go to the lead artist, and the lead artist, yes, must be, if it's a individual artist or organization, it must be a BIPOC organization, or the artist must be a BIPOC in the East Bay. So that is correct. The intention is that we want to make sure that this grant is to give support to our artists. We want to make sure that our artists are getting paid. And that's why we are very adamant about 100% of this going to the artist's pay. Next question. I'm a mural artist. Does the project have to be located at the sponsoring business, or could I get them to sponsor me painting a wall in another location, like one that maybe couldn't afford it otherwise? As long as it's in the East Bay. We want the premiere to be in the East Bay for the East Bay community.
So yes, absolutely. I understand the question. So yes, that is not a problem.
The next question is, can you talk about past grant winners? Sure, it's on our website. So if you go on our website, we have all the years. Up even last year's 2023. Last year we had about, I want to say 12 individual artists and 8 or 9 organizations that were chosen. And again, this is chosen by community members, panelists. We have up to 3 panelists, all from diverse artistic practices in the East Bay. And we've had winners, awardees that were doing dance pieces, who have done like some really cool projects. One of them had to do with like having like a mobile cart where they were getting recipes and stories from recent refugees from like different areas of West Asia and East Asia, etc., and being able to recreate that and share that with the community. And so they're like telling their story and also creating the meal that they were sharing. That was just one project. We have murals, music pieces, film, documentary. There was a recent documentary last year. So I would highly recommend going onto our website. We have the name of the artist and the name of their project, and you can see it there and look up each individual project too. Deborah, do you have anything else to add to that?
I was thinking the total amount awarded last year was a little over 300,000. So we
Okay.
usually keep within that range in terms of the awarded amount for each year.
Any other questions? So if we apply as a solo artist and have a budget of 10K, is it okay to write in our budget both the lead artist salary as well as the materials for the project? I want to say yes, right, Deborah?
That is okay, but you need to list the materials as a separate budget item. So in other words, your budget would be over 10K. So if you're talking about 10K for the lead artist with budget materials, you need to separate it out. So how much is going to the lead artist and how much is going for equipment and materials for the project?
Yes, thank you, Deborah. I hope that answers your question, Christina. So both materials and salary can be paid for by the grant.
No, the grant only goes to the lead artist. We want to see what the total budget is for the project. One of the things that the panelist considers when looking at a project budget, is it realistic? Can this be done with this amount of money? And what other organizations are you soliciting funds for in order to have the project go forward? So again, what the award you receive 100% goes to the lead artist. The budget is the feasibility of the project itself, if that makes sense. Because again, that's something that the panelists look at as well.
Thank you, Deborah. So the next question we got is how many grants will be giving out? Will only one applicant get this or multiple? So it's definitely multiple. Again, it varies on the panelists on what they choose and how they score it collectively. But last year we had about 24 projects that we funded. So, and we had how many applicants? I want to say like a little less than 60 applicants. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think last year I think we had around 50. The year before, I think we had like 61. So
very
one of the things that the panelists they'll look at as well when we get to the end of the discussion, we add up the totals and we see where we are. And they may go back and look at and say, instead of giving 25,000, they may give 20,000 to a number of organizations in order to try to fit everybody in. So they do play with the numbers at the end. And you may not get the 100% that you're asking for, but we've tried to give you something reasonable. And then when I say reasonable, to make sure to ensure that the project still will be able to move forward.
Thank you, Deborah.
Mhm.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, we got one. We are considering a sculptural installation. I see that the proposed premiere of the new work is supposed to be within 1 year. What if it takes longer?
You should wait to apply.
Yeah, it needs to be something that because of city permitting, etc. Permitting.
Yeah. We try to stick to the rule of having the premiere within 1 year to give every artist an organization an opportunity to receive funding for a project that is going to be happening sooner rather than later. So we encourage you to wait to apply if you see that as an issue, as not being able to have it ready within 1 year. This may not be the program for you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? So you mean the grant would provide 75% of the total budget, 100% of that goes to artist fees. And the rest of the total budget, materials and other, is why we need the fiscal sponsor to cover the other 25% of the total budget that the grant doesn't cover. So you would need to secure other funding. Yeah. I don't know if that would be your fiscal
Yeah, so
sponsor.
your fiscal sponsor is not going to pay
Yeah.
the difference. You would need to secure additional funding in order for the project to move forward. Fiscal sponsor is actually going to charge you anywhere between 5 and 10% for individual artists of the grant. You would have to pay them. But what we're saying is, when we're looking at a project, we're saying that the portion that you're receiving from us goes to the artist. But we want to see the budget. The decision is made on the overall budget. Is it realistic in order for this project to move forward? And that's what the panelists are looking at. So when we say we want to see that as part of the budget that you submit.
Thank you, Deborah. We have another question. Would a project like curating an all-gay Asian artist exhibit fit as a project that I can apply for? As long as you fit the eligibilities of the requirements for this EBFA fund, then you can, of course, apply for it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Does the additional funding need to be already secured or in pending status okay, such as applied for it and waiting to hear back?
Pending is fine, but we do ask you to list who else, the other organizations that you are reaching out to for support. So pending is perfectly fine.
Are there any requirements about where that remaining 25% of the budget comes from? Does it have to be from another foundation grant? No, there's no any requirements of where you get the money from.
Yeah, one of the things that we used to do and we stopped doing was when we gave you a grant for $10,000 and we say it's a $20,000 grant, you had to go out and raise the other 10,000, and you had to get that from donors or other organizations. That requirement went away. So we're not putting limitations on you. We're saying we're giving you this grant, and the remaining funds that you need in order for the project to move forward, we're not holding that against you. We're not saying that you have to have that secured when you receive our funds. We just need to know who else are you looking at who else are you applying to in order to meet your budget requirement? And I say, keep in mind, if the project doesn't move forward after this year, the funds that you received and you need an extension or it keeps going on, that's something that we will take in consideration when funding comes around again.
Mhm.
Again, we want to make space and have the funds go into the community. We do it each year. So this year, we want to have as many projects move forward successfully as possible. But we know things happen. So we do take that in consideration. But again, if you know this is not something that's been happening in terms of the funding, you look other foundations you're looking at and the timing isn't right in terms of applying, and then keep that in mind. We'll be doing this again next year.
Thank you, Deborah. Let's see. This is a really great program. Appreciate all the thought you're giving to artists. Thank you. Any other questions? I'll give you guys a minute to see if any other questions pop up in the chat. Again, this will be available, this recording, and also the PowerPoint will be available on our website. We got a question. How does an organization get on your radar for invitations for other funds? Good question. Well, every program,
BLO, yeah, I'm not, yeah, go ahead, Melody.
I was going to say every program is different. So, some of them already have like their grants for that coming time, and so it's already committed funds. But I think definitely reaching out and sharing about your organization and letting them know about you and letting our program officers know, just like even just a email or anything about your organization, I think can be helpful. But you want to talk about BLO, Deborah?
Yeah, I think BLO is almost like an open cycle. When they have the open cycle, I think they have a grant process. You have to submit, similar to Clorox, you submit like a concept paper
Yeah.
to determine whether or not you're fit for the program, and then you can receive an invitation that way. We did the same thing for BLOs. It's two-step process. The open process, anyone could submit their concept for the program that we're currently in. It's a 3-year program. And then based on what we received, we did an invitation only for the next step, for the next phase. And one of the reasons why we did that is because we wanted to make sure that folks weren't wasting their time filling out a long proposal when we knew they weren't going to move forward. So we tried to be strategic as possible in terms of that selection process, with the first process being open to determine who was in alignment, and then submitting an invitation. And then even when we did that, it was only 11 invitations that were issued and only 3 projects moved forward.
When applying, do I need to submit a portfolio? You'll need to submit work, artist samples, work samples, so that can come from your portfolio. Any other questions? Doesn't seem like we have any other questions. Deborah, I just want to say thank you so much for all of your help. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you.
No, you got it. You got this.
You're amazing. Thank you. She's amazing, guys. Thank you, Deborah. Okay, so this concludes the webinar. We really want to support new work coming from the East Bay. So if you have any more specific questions, feel free to contact us at ebfa@eastbaycf.org. Again, this will be available on the website, the PowerPoint, and this webinar. So thanks so much, everyone. We look forward to receiving your applications.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Take care.